Here's my family life studies video. I'm just going to get right into it. I was born in Los Angeles, California by Maricela and David Leonard. My parents both worked a lot right when I was born. So I was actually raised by my grandparents. I was the firstborn on both sides of my family, and obviously in my immediate family. My brother was born about 6 years later. And we were, since our parents were working all the time, we were really raised by our grandparents. Until when I was 8, my dad lost his job, and since he's from Chattanooga, we moved back here. And since my dad worked a lot, my mom was really in control of the home and me and my brother. And since she had come from an abusive home when she was growing up, that's all she knew. So that a lot of those character traits really crossed over into how she dealt with me and my brother. Since my dad wasn't home a lot, and we would never really feel advocated for by my dad. My mom could do no wrong. He was really scarred by divorce when he was younger, and so he was really passive, while my mom was very authoritarian. It was really, really clearly understood that our parents were not our friends. I remember whenever there would be something that, like, we'd say, like, oh, that's not fair. Like, my mom was just like, life's not fair. We're not your friends. She demanded that there would be respect or there would be consequences, which was really hard because it was very different from all of my peers' parenting styles. Growing up in a really small community, you're spending time with each other's houses and, sleepovers and whatever, and just experiencing, like, how other parents treat their kids was very hard, because then I started to have some questions like, okay, well then maybe, like, it's not okay to talk to me like that, or slap me, or, but there was no explanation to anything that she would do, and if we did, it was just considered, we did ask any questions, it was just considered talking back, and we'd get the backhand. So high school was a really hard time for me because I was really dealing with all of that conflict at home. And I didn't realize that it would really pour out into my social life and my emotional issues. I really struggled with depression and anxiety throughout high school, which is where I'm going to bring in the book aspect. I think one of the most interesting things in the book was the communication chapter, which is chapter 3, and specifically the conflict and communication web on page 45, of what can happen when there's unresolved conflict in a family. So the first thing would be influencing factors, which is culture or ethnicities, which obviously we being Hispanic and strict Catholic, that has something to do with it. The family power structure, my family or my mom was very coercive in the fact that, everything had a consequence. Possessions, my parents were also very materialistic and kind of let that rule a lot of things because we did have money issues. After my dad lost his job, they got in a lot of debt. And then the conflict itself, and then if there was unresolved conflict, which almost 98% of the time there was no resolution or answer to why things were happening. Unresolved conflict, the studies have shown that it causes depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations in teens, which is really interesting to me because I think for the longest time I was like, well, I guess it's just like me, but there's a pattern of what is to happen. So that was my whole high school experience, was just like this dark pit of self-hate that I didn't realize I was internalizing from my home life. So I graduated, and I had actually decided to go to UTC because I had found this great community of Christians that I really felt like known and loved by after being poured into by another college student who, while I was in high school, through Young Life, really saw what my college experience could look like, and kind of made it for what I wanted it to be. I didn't want this party, this like crazy sorority. I just wanted to focus on like myself and like what would be the best for me, which is what I've kind of done, and it's been awesome. And since then, I mean, I think as I moved away, my relationship with my parents got immediately better, which is funny because that line of communication was not something that like was necessary. We weren't seeing each other every day. We weren't living in the same household. I became independent, and so they realized the importance of, wow, like we need to have a good line of communication because now I'm able to walk away. So yeah, our family, we actually started going to counseling together, and it has been awesome seeing the impact of like how important communication is, and even in this class learning about it, and how in the future, like with my family, I want to set that tone of an open line of communication and be more authoritative than authoritarian. But thank you for listening, and I appreciate you watching all these videos, Dr. Harvey. So good luck.